Hello, and welcome to the Beautiful AI Podcast, brought to you by Perfect Corp, the leading provider of AI and AR solutions in the world of beauty and fashion. This podcast explores the many ways AI innovation is enhancing the lives of consumers and creating a more beautiful world. Join our host, technology thought leader Wayne Liu, as he talks with industry leaders about the AI innovations influencing the world today. If you're interested in learning more about the transformative impact of AI, keep listening.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Beautiful AI Podcast, where technology meets beauty. I'm your host, Wayne Liu. I'm the president and the chief growth officer of Perfect Corp. And today is a very special episode because we are the first time we focus on fashion. At Perfect Corp, we are long been known for our works in AR and beauty, but with our acquisition of Wana, we actually officially stepped into the fashion technology, powered by a virtual try-on for shoes, bags, and accessories. And there's no better guest to help us to unpack what's next in the space than our guest today, Marie Driscoll. Hi, Marie. Welcome to our show.
Hi, Wayne. Thank you for inviting me. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here with you today.
Yeah, so Mary is one of the most respected voices in the fashion and the luxury retail, with the decades of experience, analyze and cover global consumer trends. Mary is also a respected educator, currently teaching entrepreneurship in the Ep8 and also in the New York College, so helping the next generation understand the pulse of the industry. So Mary, welcome to the show. And then why don't you tell us about yourself?
Yeah. For me, fashion and beauty have the power to change how we feel. That for me is amazing. When I was an undergraduate, I studied philosophy. I was always asking why. I was trying to understand themes, the essence, the unseen, really, what's going on. And I moved that curiosity into economics and then to the consumer and naturally retail. Luxury, in some sense, really plays into my study of philosophy because luxury for me, like beauty, exists in Plato's world of forms. So really, these are perennial questions. What is beauty? What is luxury? What is truth? What is love? Right? And they're questions that they're fun to play with and that really you play with them in the real world of the products you and I love.
Yes. So, this beauty is a very abstract concept, right? Just like a philosophy. But
Yes.
right now, you're getting to the beauty industry. You have something to play with. You have a fashion. That's amazing. And also, philosophy right now actually can be the backbone of AI. We need to know how people think. Then we can teach AI how AI think. So that's amazing. Okay, so since you have such a amazing background and also experience on fashion and the retailer, so you pretty much has a front row seat to the major shift of luxury and the retail. We know right now we are in the position where the new generation meet the old generation and lots of technology. So from your vantage point, what are the biggest change you've seen over the past couple of years?
Yeah. So, the past couple of years were really waysided by COVID. COVID changed everything. It changed demand. It changed the way we lived our lives. It changed the way we worked, right? And it changed the drivers of luxury. Up until, 2020, 2019, the big drivers for luxury was the Chinese market. And the Chinese market was also a big driver of beauty. Most brands went over to China. Like if America was an attractive market for European brands, China was even more attractive because it had 3 times the population of America. And even if it didn't have the middle class like America did, it had millions of people entering the middle class every day. So with COVID, that changed everything. And you saw aspirational shoppers drive into the luxury market in droves because it was the one place you could get an experience when you couldn't get an experience, when you couldn't go out and socialize, when you couldn't be with friends, when you couldn't travel to see different parts of the world. You could buy a handbag that you couldn't normally afford. And so these aspirational products people brought into their lives, it kind of brought forward about 3 to 4 years worth of demand. It came into 2021. and 2022. It also was a time of great supply chain disruption, and so prices increased dramatically. The way people dress changed, their lives changed. But so COVID was one thing. Now we're on the other side of it. Prices are twice as high for many luxury products. At the same time, you had TikTok and Shein come in with incredible price points that the consumer is saying, why not? The high price points led consumers to say, where's the authenticity here? Where's the real here? It opened the door for dupes. Resale really took off, and vintage has taken off. And I think you have changing market dynamics. The luxury shopper is moving. We were very dependent on China. Americans stepped up during COVID. Now they're going back to, their luxury spending has softened, but India and the Middle East have picked up.
Yeah, so amazing. So that's lots of things like moving around, lots of moving part. So let's
Yes.
talk about the present moment. We say we post-COVID, but the
Right.
impact is still there, right? So lots of things happening, COVID is still there. And also we are currently in the period of uncertainty. It's a
Yes.
many uncertainty. Of course, new tariffs,
Yeah.
ongoing geopolitical shift, and the
Right.
generational change, right? So then you talk about like experiential shopping behavior. And then let's go like one by one. So how do you first think for the fashion industry? Okay, so you talk about the driven by experience and personalization, accessibility. So how are the luxury brand from brand's perspective? How are the luxury brand adapting? And then what these we executive need to know about these changes and how they face these changes?
Yeah. So, we're at the point in time where you're in the midst of first quarter sales and earnings reports, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, LVMH entered the year very positive, really looking forward to America and America being, a support and a positive growth vehicle. They're spending millions of dollars expanding in America. And on their most recent quarterly sales release and conference call, they spoke to, America slowing. It's still like it may be flat, modestly positive, but in the aggregate, their business, beauty and fragrance is down 1%, and fashion and small luxury goods are down 5%. And LVMH, you could say, is the harbinger for luxury. You're seeing like Hermes, their growth slowed. It's half of what it was in the second half of last year, but it's still positive. Both of them are benefiting from price increases. So, like what are brands and retailers doing? They're looking at their mix and they're like maybe, as we're in a period where the consumer is more value focused and they're dealing with significant price increases, they may trade down in mix. And that's where you have like the lipstick effect, the fragrance effect. These are small priced luxuries, but you feel good when you buy them. I mean, not looking at the American consumer, not really looking at luxury and fashion. We've already heard that intent for air flight is down this year domestically. The American consumer is going to take their vacation by car. They're probably staying closer to home. And we know consumer sentiment is down dramatically this early in the year, even though spending is not down in a corresponding fashion. We know the consumer is tenuous at best, right? And so what retailers and brands have to do is continue to spend through this, maintain a relationship with them. So I spend on marketing, be there with them like they did in the early days of COVID. Nobody was going to buy anything in March and April, but if you were there with them and communicating that we're here with you, we're concerned with you, and you know what? We're making masks, we're making hand cleansers. You and I then felt like when it was time to go back shopping, we went back to those stores and those brands, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So as you mentioned, so let's pivot to the consumer. So as you mentioned, the economy uncertainty and continue to impact the consumer confidence, and then they adjust their priority, right? They shift to like a small luxury, a
Right.
little bit like a beauty, lipsticks and fragrance. So let's talk about a very specific group of this consumer, Gen Z.
Right.
Gen Z is clearly the future of shopping because they fundamentally change the user journey and experience, right? So in the like a classic one, we learn about awareness, interested, and then decision. So right now everything is not. So because the TikTok made me buy it, right? So that's why.
That
And
made me buy it.
yeah, TikTok made me buy it. I don't know why. I just buy it because the TikTok made me buy it. So what are some of these new expectations they are bringing? And then the other legacy brand doing enough to keep up with this new group of shopper?
Right, right. So, it's interesting because if you look at a brand like Louis Vuitton, which has been
Mm-hmm.
around for more than 150 years, a brand
Yep.
like Coach, which has been around for like more than 80, Levi's forever, like you have these really heritage brands. You have to play with the new technology and know that like it may be something else next year. But you've got to be there, you've got to be present. Louis Vuitton has many followers on TikTok, but if TikTok were to be shut down, they would just have to move to the next social media platform, right? And the thing about TikTok, which is like the attention phase of TikTok is so short, even with the longer videos that they have or the longer reels that they have, that you wonder, like, you can be attracted to the color and not recognize the brand. I mean, there's just so many things that are going on there, and then you're on to the next thing. I know that for me, I've found things that I like, and it's so hard to go back and find them.
Yeah, so we not only have a new generation, but also you mentioned technology-driven changes, right? So like all this AI and AR experiential, and then all this, of course, the new channel. So with that, so how do you feel, your perspective, which technology are actually making the impact for the fashion brand right now?
Right. So, I think AI and personalization can really change marketing. You can use technology for fit and you can use it like so that you can actually see yourself wearing the merchandise. It's still 2D and it's still not as realistic. Like the fabric doesn't flow like it would if you were, like a movie. It's not a movie yet. And that's really kind of what you want. Because you and I have seen dancers on screen where you really do get the movement of a dress, and the technology for shopping still doesn't have that. And that will make a difference, right? When you really can see what you really look like in it. I think because sustainability is so important to this younger generation and they're shopping their values, I think that blockchain will make a difference and it will help authenticate, but it will also help brands and fashion companies know where their product came from, to track the raw materials, ultimately know who made the dress if you want.
Yes. And then also I have a theory is usually there is some byproduct about technology. So you focus on technology, the brand focus on technology,
Mhm.
mainly for the consumer experience, right? Like experience and doing AR and AI, this type of thing. But on the other side, actually is a byproduct, which what I mean byproduct is, as you mentioned, sustainability. Because you can quickly using AI and AR do virtual prototyping. You
Right.
don't even need to get any materials. Just
Right.
create a prototyping for customer to try. If they really like it, they purchase it. Or on the other side, for the sample or the inventory, right? So we can save lots of this real sample and inventory without doing the real goods and then using technology to help you. So
Right.
that's why all the brand invested in this technology, but now they can do something just for the experience on the other side,
Yeah.
on the real business
Right.
operations.
And
Yes.
you can use AI to iterate, like just like you could use AI to iterate, like to change the sentences, the structure of something that you write. You can use it to change the colors, the patterns of a textile. And you can do it so quickly. The renditions can happen so quickly that it really can help a designer get from thought to like a visualization of 100, of 500 different
Yes.
choices quickly. And I think in that, it can be very creative.
And also, we talk about omni-channel shopping, right? Because the shopper can be anytime, anywhere, any places. But retail, you talk about experiential. So
Yeah.
retail, the physical retail space is still important. But I believe they would like to do it also a transformation. They are not just for the transaction, right? So they probably for something else. So how do you think about this in-store experience some of this can truly engage today's consumer. And you can also share your tool, one of these largest like a European department store. I'll list for you. They opened a new New York's location. So that's why.
So it's so important that coming out of COVID, that physical retail be able to do what the consumer expected and has learned to expect online, which is like, give me the information I need, let me know the price, a certain amount of transparency, right? But then we're in a store, be hospitable, let me discover things that I never would have discovered online because
Mm-hmm.
of the adjacencies, new brands that I wouldn't have searched for that you're exposing me to, and be hospitable and let me have experiences. Let me be part of a community of people that love fashion or people that love fragrance. I see changes. Printemps just opened downtown. It's open a little more than a month now. This is, a storied French department store that is a hashtag, not a department store. They have numerous places for eating, drinking, hospitality. And there's brands that you know and brands that you don't know. 25% of their assortment is exclusive to Printemps, New York, which is obviously discovery. I think a lot of that is in their pharmaceutical beauty and in their fragrance. So you have to go and check it out. It's amazing. And like the piece de resistance is the shoe department that is probably like 5 stories high. It's a landmark location. It's called the Red Room, and it's just exquisite. So it's like a gorgeous shopping environment with wallpaper from Paris that everything is to the nines. But yet, and there's great hospitality, and the sales associates are knowledgeable, right? And they're willing to help. And it's just a lovely shopping experiences. And there's price points that span really from $20 to I don't even know where. Right?
Yeah. Luxury.
Wow. But
Yeah.
then, like, I was at Nordstrom recently, and Nordstrom had a fashion show that was unbelievable. They have an icon lounge for shoppers that it's not like you have to hit a really high hurdle, but then there's this area to sit and relax and have a drink on Nordstrom's, looking out a window on 7th Avenue. And it's like, this is lovely. Bloomingdale's recently had a merchandising shopping event around Italy. It was everything Italy. So you discovered Italian brands that maybe you didn't know of before. And there was food and there was fun and Bloomingdale. So I see the old time retailers reestablishing and engaging ways to engage the consumer and to keep them coming and coming back. And really, it's a truism that somebody who shops multi-channel is spending more than somebody that just shops one.
If you're interested in this conversation and want to learn more about AI solutions for your business, consider booking a demo with Perfect Corp at www.perfectcorp.com/business. Contact us today and see how our selection of AI and AR solutions can take your business to new heights. Now, back to the episode.
Yes. So basically, what happened here is for the luxury brand and retailer, you need to work hard. It's not like just you put something there and with the designer's name and it sell automatically. It's no longer that kind of a situation. So what happened is you need to work really hard to understand your customer, try to understand the technology, and then carefully marinate them together and curate the content. So like a luxury, this can be very expensive, can be sort of like a luxury in between luxury and a little bit like a mass, so people is affordable. So that's why the retailer and the luxury brand need to work harder. They cannot be lazy.
Right. And that's really to the example of the hospitality that Printemps offers and that Nordstrom has. And really the branded stores have it as well, where you sit down, they give you a drink. And like at Nordstrom, I could have had a beverage with liquor or without, some kind of a cocktail, and also a little small meal. And it's just, they're being very hospitable. And really, when you go shopping, if you spent like an hour and a half walking around a store, if you're going to spend more money there, they probably should give you something to drink. You're going to need to go to the ladies' room or the men's room. And guess what? The bathrooms there are gorgeous. They're for both sexes, right? both at Nordstrom's and at Printemps. It's one of the places I always check. And I look at the dressing rooms. It's like, what does this look like? What's the experience here?
Yeah, so that's exactly the example for the future of the retail. So, you know, it's right now lots of luxury brand even work with Amazon. There's nothing wrong with Amazon, but Amazon is primarily is a transaction, right? So that's why the storefront probably eventually just be a place like to showcase your brand DNA because you don't have this opportunity to showcase this in Amazon. So that's why you do this. You attract the potential buyer and the current buyer, and then let them understand your brand DNA, and then they probably can go somewhere else to buy. But the thing here is, it's really that place to interact with your customer, to understand, like you mentioned about hospitality, right? So that's exactly the purpose. Be social, community, like Gen Z. So yeah, so that's why it's a fundamental systemic shift on the retail and the brand. So if the brand or retailer doesn't recognize this, I guess they will definitely left behind, or they probably just sell to Amazon.
And but now I don't know if you saw earlier this week, but Saks Fifth Avenue just launched on Amazon. And
That's
so
what I'm saying. Yes.
there's 20 brands that you can, and more, that you can get, that Saks is fulfilling. So you know that they're authentic. You're not worrying about that. And in truth, like I was on the phone earlier today with the digital head of Manola Blahnik. And, like they sell a lot of their shoes online direct to the consumer because a lot of consumers know what they want. Those are perennial iconic shoes. They know their size. And it's like, I just need another pair. It's kind of like, I know the brand. I don't need the brand experience. I want the brand experience sometimes, but sometimes I just really need the shoes. And whether it's going into the store or having them delivered.
That's where this perfect course of technology can jump in because you know the brand, you like the shoes, and then if they have some new edition, you just try virtually and then they'll buy it. So that's why that's more like a convenience user experience with the help of the
Right.
technology.
It's
Yeah.
like the
So
consumer wants all of it. And in
yes,
store, you want the technology, but you want the technology to be seamless. The
yes.
technology is not the front. Technology can be a differentiator for the retailer, but it's not, and it can be a competitive advantage. But for the consumer, it's about a seamless experience and really give me what I want when I want it, where I want it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So let's zoom out a little bit. Okay, look ahead. Okay, so we are in the really like a trending moment. So for the next 12 or probably 18 months, what are the biggest risk or the challenge retail and the luxury brands should be preparing for?
Yeah. Well, you watch and listen to the same news that I do.
Mhm.
It's changing every day, right? And the worry about tariffs and how that will impact pricing and and not only pricing for your goods, like as a luxury product, if it's made in Italy, if it's stuck to a 10% price increase on cost of goods, right? If a brand were to flow it through 100% to the consumer, it's not going to be more than 5%, right? So,
Yes.
but the luxury brand has to think, wait a second, that's what's happening to my brand. What's happening to everything else that the consumer buys? I'm a discretionary purchase. What's happening to her non-discretionary purchases, to her, bicycles, to her consumer electronics, to her bed? There's lots of product categories that are beyond luxury. And then there's experiences and services as well. And then is that consumer still working? Is she worried about her job or, his or her job? So I think we're in a time like if the consumer has been choiceful for the last 2 years since that word was coined by Macmillan at Walmart, I mean, just as choiceful, like the consumer is not throwing caution to the wind. The consumer is thinking about everything they're buying. And in fact, they're opting often for like these incredible luxury brands that are very big. Maybe they're too big and maybe they're too pricey. So consumers are looking at handbags that are $2,000 or less that really may express who they are better because they're more niche and they're more affordable. And so I think brands have to be prepared for that, meaning that they have to spend through it, continue to engage. I just published something today for the Robin Report about LVMH. And I urge you to check it out. It's really an interesting piece on, they spend 9 to 11% on marketing. They're front and center through everything. Now they've aligned with Formula One. They go where the consumer is. But I think that you'll see a lot of consumers. Louis Vuitton just entered beauty this year. They'll be entering it this fall. And that's really to connect with this younger shopper who may not be able to afford a handbag yet. But at the same time, they just were in Milan where they launched their home business, which is only for very wealthy people. So their brand is expanding. It's a $20 billion brand. It's a very big brand. I think that we're going to see consumers just being choiceful. I hope we don't go into a recession, but the odds have increased that we will. And if we go into a recession, like the consumer, typically what the consumer does is they stick with known brand. We become more to their old loyal brands, which for luxury means that Hermes, Chanel, Dior, Vuitton, Celine, Ralph Lauren will hold up.
Yeah. That's a good advice. And then also there's, how we see this, probably some kind of indicator for the industry. So let's shift it here a little bit. So the young generation, they are not only shopper, because I know you are education, you teach entrepreneurship in FIT. So this is young generation, eventually some of them, right? So they will open their own company. They probably create their own designer brand and all this thing, lots of potential. However, so for this young generation, there's also lots of challenge and uncertainty in front of them. So what advice do you give to this young generation or even your student when this industry, like a fashion, it's changing every day? So what's your advice to them?
So since I'm teaching entrepreneurship, right, like I teach them, I suggest that they go and work for someone else and learn on someone else's dime, because you learn so much when you work for someone else. And to start a brand at this time, I mean, to start a brand anytime is hard. And as you scale, it's very hard to deal with having the required cash flow that you need to grow. So it's actually better to watch how established brands manage cash flow, manage dealing with, if you're wholesale, dealing with retailers, manage the direct to consumer part, and actually launch your own on the side. Try and do two things at once. Wear both hats. I also teach fashion retail at Parsons, and I teach my students to really look their consumer and look at what their consideration set is beyond, like what's this shopper shopping for? Will they only buy Chrome Heart, or are they looking for something that's unique and special and like not marketed highly, and it sets them apart, that like they're looking for self-expression, right? Like what is the need that the retailer or the brand is really meeting?
Yes, actually, I totally agree with because I also advise some young entrepreneur. So that's why just jumping directly into that open a company can be very risky. So I think your advice, like a genuine, very authentic advice, join somebody else, watch, learn, then create your own. So absolutely, I agree with you. So it's been a very thoughtful, insightful conversation. I'm really grateful for that. So Mary, I'm really glad we have you join us today. Before we wrap up, I want to ask, give us some advice. Okay, just one piece of advice to the brand navigating this era of transformation. What would be that? Just one advice.
My advice would be to know what the brand is, to know your DNA, and not to chase every fashion trend and every social media trend. But like, of course, you want to grow and you want to attract more people to your brand, but grow slowly and thoughtfully. Know the categories that you may be expanding into and the regions that you're expanding into, or the retailers that you're partnering with. Are they right for your brand? Right? Because for me, a brand is like the essence of a personality. And when a consumer chooses a brand, it's because of all the things that the brand means. Some of it is financial, but some of it is the values of the brand. Some of it is the way it looks and the way it makes you feel. And so I would always, like, you've got to protect the brand.
Yes.
That's really the most important thing. Protect your brand.
Yes. So, Mary, thank you so much for joining us. So, it's been an honor to have you. And then to our listener, thank you for tuning in. So, if you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to subscribe and share this episode. And also, don't forget to read Mary's article on the Robin Report. Okay. So, thank you. Until next time, keep innovation and then keep it beautiful. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to the Beautiful AI podcast. To continue exploring the world of beautiful AI and technology innovation, subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and be sure to join us for our next episode.